pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lauren, could you do roll call, please?
Absolutely. Chairman David Leland,
Here.
Vice Chair Ross Shillingford, Commissioner June Perrin. Here. Commissioner Philip Marquis.
Here.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth.
Here.
Adam Miller, alternate 1.
Here.
And Gary Specht.
And can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last month's meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Can we get,
Sure thing. We'll swear everybody in at the same time. So if you're here and you're going to speak to any of the the items on tonight's agenda, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. So please raise your right hand for me. Are you going to be testifying on any of the agenda items? Okay, thank you. Do you all swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
okay, the first item on tonight's agenda is application number 19-022 AAR.
And Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt you,
Yes.
I don't believe the applicant is here. Could we skip over that one? And in the event that they're just running late due to the weather,
Okay, we'll come back to it.
we'll come back to it. Thank you, sir.
We'll go right to number 2 then, which is application number 19-035 AAR.
Okay, if you'll direct your attention to the screen, this is the target site, which has the boundaries I'm outlining right now. It's on the northwest corner of State Road 7 and Okeechobee Boulevard in the General Commercial Zoning District. The applicant is seeking architectural approval for signage, repainting of the building, and replacing some of the site furnishings. So the first item is signage. Signage, I'm going to read you the criteria for signage. Signage should be made compatible with the adjacent structures and buildings to which it is attached. There should be harmony in texture, lines, and masses in design of the signage. The height and scale of the signage elements shall be considered with reference to the spatial relationships within the development and to adjacent structures or rights-of-way. The incorporation of identifying characteristics of certain signage, such as trademarks or logos, will be given strong consideration in the light of the importance such elements play within the current marketplace towards properly identifying goods and services offered on site. Lighting shall enhance the signage, but excessive brightness and brilliant colors should be avoided. Lighting for signage should also be reviewed in context with adjacent or nearby residential neighborhoods so that the adverse signage impacts may be softened or muted. Okay, having said that, the first sign is the target on the front of the store. The bullseye, they are not going to be changing because that is a non-conforming sign. They're going to be replacing the acrylic in that sign. And then instead of target with capital letters, they're changing it to small letters. Currently, the sign is currently red, and it's proposed to stay red. That's the dimension of it without the bullseye. They're adding a grocery sign. And then the third sign would be the CVS Pharmacy with a channel letter, not a channel letter, a cabinet sign, which is less than 10 square feet, which is what the code requires for that. All in all, the 3 signs that they're putting on the front of the building are within the code allowed maximums. Actually, it's a lot less than what's allowed by code. So they're also proposing to remodel the monument sign on the northwest corner of Okeechobee and Southern Boulevard. And then per section 275-27E, the commission shall consider the compatibility of the proposed color with those of adjacent structures and the resultant harmony of the area in which the change is proposed. The Commission's recommendations regarding proposed paint color of all exterior components of a building or chains of same shall be final, subject, however, to an appeal to the Village Council, which must be filed within 10 days of the Commission's decision. And colors shall be harmonious, bright, or brilliant colors are encouraged to be used only for accent. So the slide I'm showing you right now, they have a picture of the existing front of the Target store. Alongside or underneath is the proposed colors for the front elevation, along with the signage shown on it. And then here are all four sides. The paint colors are as outlined in the agenda item, and the locations are shown with the key legend over at the right-hand side of the slide. They are going to have a red band along portion of the building. So the colors are all pastel colors and in line with the colors of the rest of the buildings within the development. Cobblestone Village has pastel brown tones as well. And then lastly, the benches and the trash receptacles are proposed to be replaced. And on the site plan, they have shown the locations of benches and trash receptacles throughout the site. So having said that, if you have any questions, village staff is recommending approval as submitted. The applicant is here as well, if you have any questions of them.
And if I could just interrupt before the applicant speaks and just turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 19-035 that need to be disclosed? No. Thank you.
I also have a color board I can pass around if you would like to see it.
Okay. So the applicant is here. Do you wish to make any comments?
Nothing further past what he said.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Thank you. And state your name for the record.
Landon Shear with Kimley Horn. Nothing further past what he said. It's just some simple signage changes. He stated, we're well within the code, allowed signage for the front and the sides, and the proposed paint changes conform to the rest of the shopping center. The monument is set back well within the code's allowed setback, and I mean that's kind of it.
Got to say, we're always in for looking for facelifts on buildings.
Sure, yeah.
Always nice to beauty up the area.
No, I agree.
Anyone from the public here today that has any comments? No? Are there any questions or comments from commissioners, Ray?
No comment. Just, that's nice, like the chairman said, that is
Are you
nice.
Ray?
Sorry, Ray?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I like your sign, and I appreciate the fact that you're complying with our staff who assisted you. That's it. That's all I've comment.
Thank you.
Adam?
Yeah.
I appreciate the facelift as well. Appreciate you staying within our guidelines. And the big red balls in the front Target, are those staying or are those going?
Those are staying as is.
My daughters love them, so okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
June?
Now, just ditto to what everybody said, beautification and keeping it nice is our main focus.
Like question I have is, I noticed that, the old sign says Super Target, the new one doesn't, so they're doing away with the Super?
Yeah, they're kind of Target's. It's part of their rebranding efforts. They're kind of trying to step away from the Super Target. Everything's just Target, whether it is a Super Target or not. Everything's just Target now.
All right, like I said, it's great to see our community being enhanced, especially from such a large vendor like Target is, and,
Sure.
and also having that. So with that said, if there's no further questions or comments, can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve application 19-035 as read.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Are we ready to go back to item 1?
Are you here for the 107 Fairway, sir? Okay, yes.
Good. All right, so we're back to application number 19-022 AAR.
And again, sir, I'll go ahead and swear you in. Can you stand up for me, please? This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Everybody else has been sworn in, but do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. And I'll turn back now to the board before Kevin gives his presentation and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 19-022 that need to be disclosed. No. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll direct your attention to the monitor, the application is for 107 Fairways Lane. It's on the north side, on the north side of Country Club Drive, just east of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. 107 is in this first group of buildings on that corner, and the applicant is proposing to roof over a portion of the townhouse unit between the garage and the main structure. Architectural design and features, the commission shall provide for architectural and aesthetic review with final approval authority when such structures are being renovated and no other approvals would be required by village council pursuant to village code. The commission's final approval is subject, however, to an appeal to the village council, which must be filed within 10 days of the commission's decision. Architectural design and features the commission shall use the review criteria as set forth herein when reviewing and considering architectural design and features. The commission shall make recommendations to the village council regarding architectural designs and features other than color presented to the commission. The commission's recommendations regarding architectural designs and features other than color shall be advisory only, except as provided in subparagraph A1 above. And the commission should use the review criteria found in Village Code Section 2-75.28D. Architectural style is not restricted. Evaluation of a project shall be based on quality of its design and relationship to surroundings. Structures shall be a proportionate size to be in harmony with permanent neighboring development. Components such as windows, doors, eaves, and parapets shall have balanced proportions in relationship to one another. Colors shall be harmonious, bright, or brilliant colors are encouraged to be used only for accent. Design attention shall be given to mechanical equipment or other utility hardware on roofs, buildings, and at grade so as to screen them from view. Exterior lighting shall be part of the architectural concept. Fixture standards and all exposed accessories should be harmonious with the building design, and monotony of design in single or multiple building projects shall be avoided. Variety of detail, form, and siding shall be used to provide visual interest in multiple building projects. Variable siding of individual buildings may be used and is encouraged to prevent monotonous appearance. So this is a survey of the property. The street is out here, Fairway Lane. This is the driveway. The garage is located here. There is a gap right here between the garage and the townhouse unit that used to contain a courtyard. The bottom of that has already been enclosed, and now what they're proposing to do is to add some roofing to enclose a portion of the second story to add additional space. And this is 107. It's the second one in from the north end of that first cluster off of the northwest corner of Royal Palm and Fairways Lane. And as you can see here, this is the existing roof of the townhouse unit, the existing roof of the garage, and they will be filling in a portion to do an addition on the unit. So, and then we have, oh, I didn't include the before and after pictures, it doesn't look like. So basically they're going to use the same asphalt shingle roofing material. So that's really going to be the only exterior change to the building, is that the roof line is going to vary slightly from other units. Village staff is recommending approval as submitted. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And the applicant is here. Do you have any comments?
No, just to say that the slope of the roof.
Can you come up to the
Come up to the
microphone?
microphone,
Thank you.
please.
And state your name for the record, please, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Dylan Battles at 107 Fairways Lane.
Thank you.
Originally, we permitted and closed that first floor because of a security issue. We didn't want the gap between the garage and the house. And now we'd like to add a second bedroom for our daughter, and we're just going to follow the same slope of the roof. So it's not going to stand out. From the road, you'll see a tiny portion of roof and a tiny portion of wall, which will all be the same color and finishes.
Thank you. And do we have any comments from the public? You seem to be the only public we have here tonight. Okay, let's start with you. Ray, any questions, comments?
Are you the first one to do that? Or are there other units that have already done this?
I'm not aware of any other unit that's done that because they usually use that little cove for storing their trash can. I just use my garage. You can't see that cove from the street because it's kind of deep inside the walkway.
No, I have no problem with it. I was just curious if others had done it in the past.
Not with a permit that I'm aware of.
All right, okay.
And just a side note, he did get approval from the HOA for the addition, so staff made sure that they had that since he is part of an
That
HOA.
was gonna be a question I had. June?
No questions.
Adam?
I commend you for getting the permit and doing everything the right way, sir. Thank you.
Ray?
Dylan, the only question I have for you is, how do your neighbors feel about it?
We've told our neighbors, and they don't have a problem because it's not something that you can really see unless you're in our walkway. So it's very private.
Because I was concerned with the neighborhood and the neighbors, and it sounds like everything is cohesive, so, yeah, all right.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve application number 19-022 AAR.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Now, we're down to application number 3, number 19-043, SVAR.
And I'll turn, before Kevin starts, back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 19-043 that need to be disclosed at this time. No, thank you.
Okay, if you'll direct your attentions to the monitor, the site is highlighted in blue. It is known as Pod 1 of Southern Boulevard Properties. The bridge is approximately here on the map, lining up with 103rd Avenue to the north. This is the long entry or driveway into the apartment complex, which, although not shown on this aerial because it's too old, is substantially complete. I think they've gotten some COs or are very close to obtaining those at this point. The subject of this application is a variance for signage, and the criteria for granting a variance is set forth at section 2632F6B. And there are 7 conditions that should be considered when granting a variance. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved. It should not result from the actions of the applicant. It should not confer on the applicant any special privilege. It should, a literal interpretation of the provisions of this division should deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties, or shouldn't deprive them of rights granted to other properties. The variance granted should be the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. It should be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the division, and it should not be injurious to the area involved or detrimental to the public welfare. Having said that, this is a blow-up of the site. The red area is the approximate location of the sign. The first slide, there's 3 parts to this variance. One is a height variance to allow the sign structure to be 21 feet in height where the code requires a maximum of 7 feet in height for residential districts. The second one is to allow a second entrance sign on the tower feature. And the third is to allow a reduced setback of 8.75 feet where the village code requires 10 feet. And that is for the tower structure located here on the survey. And then this is the property line, which is to the north, which abuts the C-51 canal. So it's not abutting any other residential or commercial property. It's abutting property that's dedicated to the public for drainage purposes. So other than the impact that you would discern from driving by at 50 miles an hour on Southern Boulevard, the setback variance, may not be that. It's not as detrimental to the area as if it, abutted a single-family home or some sort of commercial use that wouldn't appreciate that. So, having said that, the sign has been connected to the tower, which is a common feature in a lot of entrance subdivision signs. I think Bella Terra might have some towers on theirs. I think Park Central has a tower feature on theirs. And I think one of the board members approached me before the meeting to ask about Bella Terra. Bella Terra has, if you've driven by on Crestwood, a pretty high monument sign on either side of their entranceway. So ordinarily, actually originally the tower feature was separate, and being a separate feature from the sign, it would have been required to meet the setbacks for the zoning district. So in order to reduce the setbacks required by the zoning district, the applicant has put a portion, a new wall connecting the tower feature to the sign to make it part of the sign. So there are other signs out there that have gotten variances for not only the size of the sign, but the height of the sign. At other developments, this is the actual design of the sign that they want to build, and actually, not that they want to build, it's already been constructed on the site. They unfortunately constructed it prior to obtaining a permit. And the applicant is contending that there are unique features, that the sign structure has a tower feature attached to the sign, which is 21 feet in height. The actual monument portion of the sign structure would be 10.5 feet in height if the tower was not attached to the sign structure. Village Code Section 20-1 definitions defines sign area as follows. The area of a freestanding or hanging sign shall include the entire area within and enclosed by the exterior perimeter of all cabinets or modules within a single continuous figure, including but not limited to all written copy, logos, symbols, decorative embellishments, and border or roof treatments. This shall include all open spaces within said perimeters and all space separating said cabinets or modules. Only one face of the sign, the largest, of any double-faced sign shall be counted in calculating sign area. The applicant contends that a larger monument sign is necessary due to the unique circumstances of the property being set back approximately 200 feet from the closest point of the adjacent Southern Boulevard right-of-way. The property is set back 200 feet from Southern Boulevard due to the location of the C-51 canal being located between the roadway and the property. The applicant asserts that other similar residential developments located throughout the village of Royal Palm Beach also have taller signs than permitted by village code. Regarding the variance for the second sign on the tower, the applicant contends that the primary entrance sign is oriented to the east and can't be seen by eastbound traffic from Southern Boulevard. The applicant also asserts that the additional sign on the tower is oriented to the north and high enough to be visible from Southern Boulevard regardless of the direction of travel. The applicant is also seeking a variance to allow the tower element to encroach approximately 1.25 feet into the required 10-foot setback from the north property line. The applicant constructed the sign before obtaining the building permit, and the applicant contends that the setback variance is justified by the tower being located 210 feet from the right-of-way of Southern Boulevard. The applicant also states that this is the minimum variance necessary to allow suitable project signage. Staff is recommending denial of the variance request. Staff feels as though the criteria for granting these variance requests have not been met since the applicants constructed the sign and tower before obtaining a proper permit. So at this point, it would be difficult to move, and that the granting of the variance request will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands, buildings, structures similarly situated. And then, although staff is recommending denial, it is worth noting that if this multifamily development were part of the larger planned development, which is all of the other pods in the master plan, that a variance to the height would not be required. Planned developments allow for varying the sign regulations without the need for a variance. In addition, the tower and other features of the sign which exceed 7 feet in height are ornamental in nature. Since the tower structure has already been constructed, the only option available to meet the required setback would be to demolish the tower and reconstruct it with the proper setback. In regard to the additional signage on the tower feature, village staff does not believe that the applicant has proven the need for the additional sign on the tower element, and that it would confer special privileges not granted to similarly situated properties. There is another monument sign further down that entrance drive, which village staff was considering their second monument sign. I think it's somewhere right around this area of the property. So that's why the tower sign is considered to be a third sign. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and the applicant is here as well if you have any questions of them.
Would you like to make a?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ellie Halpern. I'm the attorney for the Related Group. I have with me representatives of the Related Group if you have questions. Just to give you a little background, what you were asked, or what Kevin mentioned, most of all the COs have been already issued. There's about almost 50% leased, and I don't know if you've driven through there, but it's a beautiful community. Sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint. We didn't get it to IT in time enough for it to get through to make sure we didn't have any viruses in it. So we'll go old school, and I've handed out what will be our PowerPoint presentation. The comment and the basis for the recommendation of denial by staff is that the sign was built, which is unfortunate and was done in error. It was not done with malice. It was not done with an intent to deceive. There was a situation that went on through the approval process that resulted in the sign being built. The first of which is there was, the sign was shown and the tower on the original approval. There was then a master plan modification done, and in that modification, if you look on the second page of the handout that says supplemental information and highlighted, is the modified sign with the increased height, not attached to the tower at that point, but the increased sign. Looks like this. Oh, right. In that master plan modification, which was approved by council, and if you'll notice, it's initialed on the bottom, the construction company, and thus Related, thought that that approval meant approval of the modified sign. Unfortunately, what wasn't done by the agent at that time when they submitted the application for modification was clearly indicating what was being modified. In other words, they had to list in the justification exactly what was being modified and requested in that modification application. And a modification of the sign was not specifically called out in the justification. So the approval of that modification did not approve the modification to the sign. But that was not known. It was an error. The second mistake was when the construction permit was submitted for the clubhouse. The sign was included in the application, and again, was not clearly indicated that it was being submitted. It hadn't gone through architectural approval. There were mistakes made by the contractor. It is Related's responsibility. but it was not intentional. It wasn't built so to, do it now and ask later. It was really done by mistake. So we are here to try and correct that mistake, to go back and start where we should have from the beginning, knowing that we think that the request for variance meets all the criteria and hopefully you will recommend approval. The first picture in what would have been the PowerPoint presentation behind the introduction is an overview of the development. You can see it's almost done. As I said, some of the features that they've put in are beautiful. It's a wonderful addition to the community and is being leased up quickly. Not to be repetitive and take up too much time, we are asking for three variances from Section 2056 relating to the signs. One is to add an additional sign on the tower feature. Secondly, the height, which we have to go to the highest point of the sign, which is the 21 feet, which is the tower feature, and to reduce the setback by 1.25 feet. As you know, most entrances to communities, you drive by them every day, and a typical entrance, I wanted to show you a couple of them. Port of Sol, which is on Okeechobee, clearly visible as you drive down Okeechobee. They have beautiful signs on either side of the entrance, which is very typical. Another one which we had chatted about, Bellaterra, which was mentioned on State Road 7. Again, two signs at the entrance, clearly visible to the traveling public, which is the purpose of a sign, to communicate easily to people traveling where this development is located and where to get in safely. A somewhat similar community, the Enclave Palm Air, which is off of State Road 7, is set back a bit from State Road 7, but they have entrance access off of State Road 7, and again, clearly visible entrance to the traveling public to locate how to get in there. Potential tenants, their guests, their contractors, everybody can find it and get there safely. Our request to be repetitive, to allow the height, the second entrance face on the tower, and the small encroachment. The existing monument sign, I'm showing you a picture of it. The next page. And the unique circumstance, which you can clearly see from the aerial, is that this sign is located, it's really almost 220 feet from Southern Boulevard. The canal is 200 feet, and then there's a maintenance right-of-way along the south side of the canal, which is almost 20 feet. It is quite a distance from not only Southern Boulevard, but is also, as you head west, behind an elevated bridge, which you can see in the next picture. And this is looking directly from Southern Boulevard, straight at the sign, which doesn't even show two features that also block the view. There is a railing next to the pedestrian walkway on Southern Boulevard. And then on the south side, there is also a yellow railing in front of the entrance to protect the public from going into the canal. So there are more obstacles than just, what we've clearly shown. The next picture is a view coming from the west, which is the most difficult place to see the sign. As you're heading west, the bridge is in the way, and really the only thing visible to somebody trying to locate the property coming west is the top of the tower. You cannot see the sign at all if you're headed west. As you can see, looking across the bridge on the next slide, the next picture, again, even coming over the bridge, you can only see the top of the tower. You cannot see the bottom of the monument sign. And the next picture, I gave you the view from the other side to give you a little perspective from the sign, looking and seeing how far Southern Boulevard is from the location. It gives you a perspective from the other way. It's hard to even see the cars from the other side. A tower feature of this height, similar height, was approved, as Kevin mentioned, for the South University sign, which is at the corner of Belvedere and State Road 7. And while it's not a residential community, it is similarly situated, and the The reason for their variance was, again, the setback from the property line, and for them, the intervening Lake Worth Drainage District Canal. They also did put their sign on the top, so it would be visible to the traveling public, and they could easily locate the development. In summary, this entrance is in a unique location. This was not the creation of the developer. It was the location of the property and no access to the major roadway to Southern to put the signs to easily find the location, to get in without driving past it and have to make dangerous U-turns, especially when you're coming from the west. We have satisfied all 7 criteria by showing that it is a unique circumstance. This will not confer a special privilege on this property owner, as there really is no other property owner in this circumstance. It provides safety to the traveling public to locate the facility and does not interfere with any lines of sight. It's good for the public welfare. It will help serve the purpose of a sign to help the traveling public locate the development easily. And we respectfully request that you recommend approval, and I and the representatives of Related are happy to answer any of your questions.
I don't speak for the other commissioners, but yes, there have always been other variances, and they were gone about the right way. In this case, it wasn't, from what we're being told from staff and what we've seen. When you take it upon yourself to build something without permitting it first is not a good sign to get something to move forward. And I think that's probably where this problem first came. You can't ask for a variance when something's built. It's supposed to be asked beforehand. So with that said, I will ask, are there any other comments from the public? And then I'll pass this to...
If I could just respond. As I tried to explain, it was unintentional. It was not with malice. It was really done by mistake, and we are here to, I'll say, ask for forgiveness and do this the proper way.
But I guess the question is, how do we forgive something that was done without approval?
To look at it from the perspective of, if you were approving it from scratch, would you approve the variance?
Kevin, are there financial considerations in this?
Financial considerations are not to be part of your decision
No,
making.
but I'm just asking, is that something that the village is pursuing?
Yes, as well, as I mentioned in my staff report, at this point, since it's constructed, the only option for them to be able to meet the code would be to tear down the tower and rebuild it in the location where it meets the setback. So that would be a financial consideration, but that's not supposed to be considered as one of the criteria for a hardship. And in addition, I kind of just want to put something out there. The applicant did indeed apply for a minor site plan modification. They used an agent, one of these big, one of the planning firms that does work in our area. I believe they were the original planner for the Tuttle development at the beginning. And we have application intake meetings with people when we take in these minor site plan modifications, and we instruct them that all of the changes that you're requesting need to be itemized in your request. Because what frequently happens is that they'll come in for, we're just going to change out, this one species of landscape material for this species, and then we sign the plans and we stamp them and we write them a letter, and then they come back and they said, well, you approved 5 changes to species on this plan. I'm like, well, you only asked for 1. So what staff has done over the years, after having that occur a few times, is that we specifically state in our approval letter that only the changes that you specifically enumerate and call to staff's attention, whether they are on the plan or not, are approved by this application, and that no other approvals are granted or implied. And I'm not saying that they did anything wrong, but if you know, it could have been a simple mistake that they forgot to itemize that thing, but that's why staff has to write those approvals that way, is because otherwise it's like you have to review the entire plan like it's a brand new plan, and then it's not really a minor site plan, it's a major site plan because it takes 2 or 3 days to review. So the whole idea of a minor site plan is minor changes that are like plus or minus 5% of the overall site, and it's to alleviate the applicant from having to go through a 4 to 5 month process. So it's a accommodation for, you know, things that might happen during the construction process. They discover an easement that they didn't know was there and have to relocate the sign 5 feet, you know, either closer to the property line or away from the property line to be out of the easement, things of that nature. So I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what the minor site plan was, and it doesn't come before any board. It's reviewed by staff, and we have 2 planners on staff, so, you know, we don't have the kind of time to, you know, give it a full major site plan review for a minor site plan, and that's why we request, if it's changed on the plan from what was approved by council, please list it, and anything that's in, a lot of times there's extensive changes and they submit a letter, and I believe that's the case that happened here, and I specifically referenced only the changes specifically enumerated in the letter are approved.
So if we were to deny this request, in essence, are we sending the message to them that they literally have to tear it down and build it to the proper dimensions?
That would be their only recourse at this point.
Unless we would reapply for variance and start from scratch, which is how I'm asking you to please look at this.
Or, well, if you recommend denial, that is a recommendation. Council is the final authority, so.
All right.
So it'd be up to council really whether or not they want to make them tear it down and rebuild it, but they would take your your recommendation and the reason for your recommendation into consideration.
Well, then, at this point, I guess we've got to throw it at the other commissioners to get their input, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it's, in a way, it's a shame to tear it down, but then if it wasn't done to code and to the right permits, I would say where we have a choice. But the full commission can make up their mind how they feel about it.
June?
It's a beautiful tower. Sign looks beautiful. But we have to make sure that going forward, this is a big development that's going to be going on there. We have to make sure that we address everything that's going to be approved, every site plan. We have to make sure that, as Kevin mentioned, that everything is listed and that we have good communication between yourselves and our planning board, because it's essential that these things be done properly and with the guidelines that we require for the village. I mean, it's there already. It's hard to say tear it down, but this should have been addressed before. All of this should be thought of before. I mean, you all are all experienced builders. I'm sure you've been building and doing these things for quite a long time and gone through various villages and variances. So maybe you should have stopped and thought a little bit before you went and started building this beautiful tower so high. But I don't know if I can say tear it down, but I can say I'm very concerned about this going forward with the development of this whole project. It makes me very concerned that we have to make sure we cross our T's and dot all our I's going forward with this plan. Because otherwise we could end up with, I think, more difficult issues as we go along. But I'll let it stand for the time being.
This was a unique situation. Related has built all over South Florida. They do rely on agents, and unfortunately, the agent did not listen carefully to instructions.
Well, maybe you should, check out the agency yourself also, because this could be a big issue. If we said tear it down, that means you've got to go back to scratch, which would be I'm sure it would be a big issue for you to do that also. So let's make sure that we address all these issues going forward in a proper manner from both sides, please.
Right, and I just wanted to point out that the related project is separate from the other pods of the rest of the development,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Adam?
Sure. So I understand mistakes. Mistakes happen. And I understand, that's a big canal, and I understand trying to make a bigger sign so people can see it from that road. I understand that. I really wish that had been asked first, right? We get a mistake. But I have a question. Are there going to be more errors, or as we move further along in the project, are there going to be other asks for other
Actually,
variances?
as I mentioned, the project is all CO'd. It is in full compliance with code. It's over 50% leased. And I don't believe there are any other issues that will come up or be back before you.
Staff, do you concur with that?
There is one other issue regarding parking space size near the clubhouse. I did have a conversation with, I'm not sure who it was from the project, or initially they were going to seek a variance because the spaces were a foot too small, but the indication today is that they were going to add the extra foot to the spaces in question. So at this point, it sounds like there are no other issues. I haven't seen a plan that shows that they are actually adding the space or how they're doing that yet, but that's what they've indicated to me. They called me today and discussed that with me.
I mean, there is a minor site plan modification coming in to deal with these issues with everything specifically delineated, as well as the sign now will come back to you for architectural approval, and then it will have to go for a building permit.
I'm sorry, so what else is on those other minor site plan modifications?
There's some dumpsters, I think, that needed to be relocated, and there were a few features that sometimes when you build things, they're not exactly where they were originally placed on the site plan, so they have to come in with a modification just to make sure everything's reflective of what's exactly on the ground.
And the sign would be part of
that.
that minor site plan modification that they're coming in for, to reflect whatever happens here tonight, or at council from here.
Ray?
I've just seen too many issues here. Let me ask you to explain, and also the staff. I was given to understand that the variance is granted with no favoritism or special treatments, and this is what I'm seeing basically. And let me expand on it. Built before you got permitted, and I think one of our members brought that issue up. And also, can you comment on why is it so hard to recommend that it's demolished and you do it the right way and rebuild it to code? And then I'll give the staff a chance to respond also.
If that were your recommendation,
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak, and I'll let Ron speak, but we would be back before you with the exact same variance request, except for the setback, because we could move it the 1.5 feet, or 1 foot 2 inches. But the rest of the variance application would be before you again.
But you're not open to demolish it and go the right way to begin with? Because it sounds like there's a major issue here. Why couldn't you? Because according to what Kevin was saying, that recommendation by the entrance, not the tower, some kind of, right? Kevin, can you expand on that?
What was the question about the tower?
In other words, you recommended that it's by the entrance. You made a comment, and not the tower, but to put it by the entrance.
Oh, no. What I was saying is that there's another entrance sign further down.
Right.
Because they are entitled to 2 entry feature signs.
Right.
Usually one is on either side of the road entering.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they opted to put it closer to where, you go in towards the guardhouse and around the lake. So they do have technically 2 entry signs.
Exactly.
And the one on the tower would be the third. That's why they're asking for a variance to allow that on the tower. That's the clarification on that.
So basically, when you built it before you got permitted, and I think your response was that the contractor, something about the contractor.
When the application for the clubhouse building permit was
Yeah.
submitted, the sign was in that application,
Right,
but that was not approved by the village.
exactly. So basically, there are a lot of assumptions here,
There were.
right? And also, these are just things I'm pointing out. In other words, in retrospect, could we have done it differently? Well, can we meet each other halfway and start over and get it right to begin with? Or are we going over this to rectify it when there's a lot of issues? And that's just in my mind.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Maybe you
and
can expand on that.
just to be repetitive, if the sign were not there,
Yeah,
I would be before you asking for this variance, except for the setback for the tower.
okay. And then also, the height requirement, can you, Kevin, can you explain that again? Because that sounds like,
Yeah, the
That's
code
also an
for
issue.
any residential zoning district allows them to be a maximum of 7 feet in height.
right,
However, as Ms. Halpern pointed out, there have been a number of planned unit developments. Some of them, as planned unit developments, were allowed to vary the sign regulations without need for a variance. Had the same effect. They have taller signs. Bellaterra's sign is up on probably a 10 or 12-foot berm, and then it's probably 10 or 15 feet, and I believe there are tower features and a water feature
You have
connected.
a picture of that in your
yeah,
package.
in the information, sure.
She mentioned the clock tower on the corner of Belvedere and State Road 7 for South University,
Right.
which also got a variance because initially I believe they came in for it as an accessory, like an ornamental structure,
Right.
and it didn't meet the setbacks. And then I think at a later date they came in and put a sign on it.
Okay,
So, and Bellicera, that's a brand new one. That is not, oh no, that was a PUD.
right,
But, you know, it's right up close to the road. It meets the setbacks, but it is also very tall.
okay,
So, and then we also had pointed out that if, and that's a big if, it is not part of the planned commercial development that's going in adjacent to it. If they had come into the,
Exactly.
what do you call it, the association,
right,
then they would be part of the planned commercial development, and it would just be varied through the sign, through the PCD code.
right. That would have been a different route.
So they wouldn't have needed a variance in that instance
Exactly.
either. So,
Okay.
I mean, you know, you can look at it that had they joined, we wouldn't be here tonight, but they opted not to, and, you know, a series of, I guess, unfortunate events transpired
Right.
from there on down.
And also, one word comes to mind, due diligence with the, you mentioned an agent. You know, when you're doing your due diligence, maybe in the future, you could think about.
This is a very reputable agent.
I know,
That's before
well,
you all the
I know,
time.
but there's a lot of things that, you know, issues. Anyway, also, you mentioned parking space problems, and also, this is not a minor, by any means, it's not minor changes to the site plan, right? I mean, we're talking,
Well, you can't get a site plan modification for something that requires a variance. The variance is the first step.
exactly,
So without a grant of variance, then the site plan modification for at least the sign part of the application goes away.
it stops there unless it's corrected, because I'm seeing a lot of issues. And before I move forward, in my mind, I'm just speaking for me as a commissioner on this commission, that I'm seeing just too many issues that really need to be addressed, and that's why I can understand why the staff is recommending disapproval. And I'm kind of leaning, because unless you have compelling reasons, I heard you actually, Ms. Halpern, and it just seems like there's too many things moving forward. So, and that's just my personal comment. Okay.
Well-
Can you please?
A
One
7-foot
more
sign,
try.
a 7-foot sign would not communicate clearly to the traveling public where to turn. It would result in people driving by the bridge heading east and having to make U-turns, people heading west never seeing the bridge to know to make the left to see the sign for the development, and again having to go make U-turns.
That was in your information,
Right,
and I
so
looked at it.
a
sure.
higher sign is essential to serve the purpose of your sign code.
And if I might point out, the board has the option to approve in part and deny in part, if that's a direction you want to head in, because you could certainly argue that there aren't a lot of residential properties that are set back 200 feet from the right-of-way that provides access or where they're going to be seen from. So, you know, in other situations, there's a car dealership on Southern Boulevard right near the flyover.
Right.
That they got 30-foot tall signs.
Exactly.
They had a drainage easement from FDOT that was in front of their property. So, I mean, you know, you can approve a larger sign, but maybe deny the third sign on the tower. I mean, you know, there's permutations that you can consider. You don't have to deny, you know, approve or deny all three as one app, you know.
So in other words, a conditional.
Right, you could put a condition or a motion together that says that we motion to approve the size variance and the tower height variance or the setback variance, and not the height variance or any, you know, any combination of. You could deny all three, you could approve two and deny the third. You could deny two and approve one.
And if I may just interject as well, I know there's been discussions about some additional things that are happening at the site with regard to parking spaces and other things, but I just want to remind the commission that the application before you tonight is specifically regarding the variance.
The
and
variance,
You
right.
should be applying the variance criteria that Kevin went through to this application. You shouldn't be necessarily considering.
No other considerate.
Correct.
Gotcha, man.
So,
So basically, what we're just considering tonight here is the size, the setback, and the tower.
The tower
The
sign,
tower.
The height of the tower, right,
the height of the tower and the additional sign on the
and the
tower.
additional sign, yeah.
so, I think, Ms. Halpern, what you've heard here tonight is that this development has come before this commission a few times now with asking for variances. And now we have another FUPA. We've had footprint changes that have been made for the apartments. We've seen other things that have come, some minor, some not so minor. But I think what you're going to find is moving forward, you're going to be working under a much finer microscope, because I heard from the commission that, you know, when you submit something, we expect you to be done with it, and we don't want to constantly see you revising things after they're approved to be done a certain way.
Exactly.
And we're seeing this more now. You know, oh, a mistake was made, this was made. You know, you're professionals, and you're held to that standard that you're supposed to know. You're not, you know, we had something come before us some time ago where a homeowner put up a gazebo without pulling a permit. But that's a homeowner. He just didn't know the difference. He was told that it was okay to do it. You people are supposed to know. And with that said, I'm going to put it before the commissioners to make a motion whether to approve or deny your application.
And I do just want to point out that Ms. Halpern wasn't the professional that represented them for the site plan process. She's just involved with the sign
Oh,
variance.
no, I know that.
No.
I know that.
And
That's
I'm
why
not-
you're looking at him going, what are you talking about?
Oh, I'm not aware of any other variance that the related site has asked. I think this is part of a bigger project, but the related site has been an application in and of itself at this point. And to the best of my knowledge, no other variances have been requested.
And we can't think about variance in the future. We have to address this variance that we're talking about here tonight.
Right.
Correct.
So, with that said,
Everybody, I'd like to make a motion. Help me if I'm not correct in this, if I need guidance moving along with this. We've all discussed this, we've all talked about this, we've all had our pros and cons against it. It's already built already, it's done without being actually properly approved first, I want to say that. You know, if the wording is not right, bear with me. Let's make a motion to approve the tower, the size variance, the tower variance, the setback variance, and the additional sign variance. I make a motion to approve those, to move forward with this application 19043.
So if let me just kind of summarize. You're making a motion to approve the application as submitted because there's 3 parts to it and you recommended all 3.
All 3 of them, yes.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I oppose.
I oppose also.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can
We do a voice or a roll call?
we do roll call, Lauren, please?
Yes.
Can you call the
Lauren?
roll, Lauren?
The whole thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you.
Chairman David Leland,
Nay.
Vice Chair Ross Sillingford,
Not here.
Commissioner June
President.
Perrin,
Approval.
Commissioner Philip Marquis, Commissioner Ray Nazareth,
Nay.
and Adam Miller.
Approval.
Motion fails 3-2.
Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, this will still go to Village Council, I guess in October? September, I'm sorry. So, and that would be the final disposition.
Okay, October you said?
September, I'm sorry.
September, okay.
Okay, I believe that concludes our board business for tonight. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 24th, and we are adjourned.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Aye.
All in favor?
September what?